Welcome to Secret Story. I led Ted down the hall to the guest room. I pulled back the duvet to the floor. I had Ted stand beside the bed like yours, Case. I played with his hair, twisting it in my fingers. Case, you know how I like to do that to you. Do you remember how that feels when I do that to you, Case? You love it. Well, Ted loved it too. He sucked air in through his teeth. If this were the only time we were together, knowing I was sacrificing my marriage to you, I would make this last. He was mine to control. I wanted him to remember every second, and as you can see, I did. I smiled. Ted, do I look good in the gift you gave me? I teased. I'm not sure I had ever felt this before. Case, it was fun. I promise if we survive this mess, I will be this wife for you. Ted, looking down at me. Case, I know you love it when I do that to you, don't you? Ally referenced me several times in her story. Each time I reflected on what she said, she was 100% right. I felt partially responsible for the situation getting further out of hand. I believe that if I had been more attentive and had called her back or texted her, that none of this may ever have happened. That it was like Ally was to me using Ted's body as a surrogate. He again, Jesus, Ally, I have never felt that before. You're amazing. I was proud of myself. Case, you taught me how to very well. Ted was reaping the benefit of all your training. He loved it. Her detailed account amazed me. It was like she was cuckolding me through her story. I realized then that this whole misstep may have been payback for my many 2-week trips and my unresponsive attitude. I was taking Ally for granted and not realizing it. Ally made me suffer regardless of the outcome. As the truth came out, just then, a big smile showed across Ally's face. She looked down at the movement under the sheets. Oh my God, Case. She slowly dragged the silk sheet off. I didn't stop. Case, I can't believe you are jerking off to my story. I thought you were mad at me. Take your hand off. You can't do that if you're playing with yourself. Do you understand me? Suddenly there was this new side of Ally appeared. A controlling, surfaced from nowhere. I had never seen this side of her. Just that quick, she took control. She was reveling in it. Ally got up off the bed and went to her dresser. She lit 3 candles, placing one on each side table and leaving one on her dresser. She lit a jasmine incense stick that quickly filled the air with its sweet smell. She went to my dresser, opened a drawer, rummaged around, and took out a pair of tights I had bought a few years ago but never wore. Ally back on the bed. Put these on, so you can keep your hands off your, then listen to every word I say. Okay. Since this turns you on, Case, I will tell you the rest, all of it. It will take a while and might be hard to hear. I hope you will be able to take it. Sorry, Case, but I am being honest. I know that it is hard for you to hear and even harder for me to say because I know it hurts you. I woke up about 7 a.m. I got up and quickly washed up. I slipped on a robe and went to make coffee. I checked my phone. Case, you had finally called twice and texted me several times as well. I went onto the deck and called you. I got your voicemail again. God damn it, that pissed me off, so I yelled at you through the phone before I left you a message. I knew you were sleeping. But damn it, you hadn't called me back when I needed you, and now no answer either. I wondered if you gave a shit about what was happening to me, or you had a little side thing going yourself. All kinds of thoughts ran through my head. Case, you may remember you got a nasty text. My text, where the hell have you been? You have not bothered to call or text me for over 20 hours. What have you been doing? I needed you to talk with you, which was important, but I was not important enough. Well, guess what, Case, no response from you again. I gave up and turned off my phone. If you called now, I would not know it, and at that point, I didn't care. I took a coffee up to Ted and crawled back in bed with him. Earlier, I had called out from work sick, so Ted and I could be together in the morning. I never heard your phone calls and texts throughout the morning, and I was busy like you were when I called you. Only you were not doing the same thing I was, but you were still too goddamn busy to talk to me. Sandy called me wanting to know all the details, and I told Sandy nothing. Ted swore not to tell her anything either. Just before Ted left, he over the back of the sofa one last time. Then he left at about 1 p.m. 20 times. It was all unbelievable. Once Ted left, I showered. Then I called you and acted like nothing was wrong, but case. I was pissed off that you had been unavailable for the past 2 days like I didn't matter at all. You had never done that before. Ever. So, what the was going on? If you remember, you had promised me always to answer the phone when I called, even if it were inconvenient, and you had to tell me we would talk later. The problem was that when you finally did take the time to call your wife, it was too late. The die was cast. I had already cheated on you and was doing it again on Wednesday night. Even after all the with Ted, I almost called him to come over that night, but I thought I had best not. I needed 2 days for my to recover before I let Ted again. I hated myself for cheating and was concerned about what would happen to us. I truly agonized about what I had done, and finally, late Tuesday night, I texted Ted. My text, Ted, I enjoyed the other night, but I can't do it again. My guilt level can only go so high. I am already off the scale. Thank you for the gift. I will have to figure out how I can explain them to Case. This call is goodbye, Ted. I felt sad when I sent that text. I am not sure why, but Ted was such a nice man. As I listened to Ally explain how she had cheated on me, I realized that my love for her was so strong that I could never let her go. She had opened herself up to Ted in ways she had never done with me. Her surfaced for the first time. Now I wanted that. For me, I also knew Ally was 100% right that I had not paid attention to her calls and texts. I get so absorbed in my job and clients that I ignore her. I was wrong and had helped make this happen. I will never let that happen again. That I had decided to keep her, but conditions would be different as we move forward. She would pay for her cheating, and I would enjoy every minute of it. We would have new rules, and I might even consider her seeing Ted occasionally as a reward for being a good wife to me. I looked at Ally as she started up again. God, I loved her. You and I talked several times, Case, and you told me about the big accounts you hope to close this week. You explained that that was the only reason you were traveling this much. These accounts were critical and would form the basis for our financial future. I understood all that, but I felt like you forgot about me for 2 full days, which hurt me badly. You were not there for me when I needed you, and this whole pile of shit happened partly due to your inattentiveness and my moral weakness. Wednesday was a difficult day. Sandy took me to lunch and told me about how Ted liked me and wanted to go out tonight just to have dinner and dance. I knew that was not all he had in mind or what I wanted to do. I had decided not to go and told Sandy so. I called you. We talked on our way back to my office. We had only 2 more days, and you would be home. I hoped I would be back in your arms, but there was dread in my heart. I was so afraid that you would leave me when I told you what I had done. And we would be over. I would lose you forever. Case, I told you that I loved you before we hung up. I walked into my office and on my desk was a vase of beautiful red roses, my favorite. I knew you had sent them, and I smelled them. And they were divine. My heart was beating fast, thinking of what I would do for you when you got home on Friday. I couldn't wait. Then I opened the card. My heart leaped in a different direction. The beautiful roses were not from you, they were from Ted instead. I took a deep breath and read the note. Ally, I can't get you out of my mind. I need to see you one last time. Please have dinner with me tonight, the 2 of us. Dinner only, nothing else. I know I have jeopardized your marriage, which is the last thing I want, so I want to end this. Please have dinner with me this last time, and I will be out of your life forever. Ted, oh God, what was I to do? I knew I needed to say no and end this, but he sent my favorite flower. I went to the ladies' room to freshen up and think. My confused mind flared up again as I sat in the stall. I thought, Ted is a nice guy. He sent me flowers, could having dinner be so bad, then that would be it. I made up my mind and went to my office, and I called Ted on my office line. He answered. Hello. Ted, it's Ally. I received beautiful flowers, roses are my favorite. But Ted, you must stop sending me things. It's not right, and I am married. What we have done is so wrong. Ally, I just can't get you out of my mind. Can we have dinner, just the two of us? Please, let's politely end this. I could hear the desperation in his voice. My breathing was shallow. Suddenly I was very horny, that scared me. Would I be able to just go to dinner with him? Oh. That just couldn't happen. My mind was riddled with guilt because of what I had done to you. Case I knew I just couldn't do it again. I was silent for a long while as my brain and body fought over my decision. The longer I thought, the weaker I became. Finally, after a few minutes, my brain lost out and I caved in. Ted, I think that would be okay. But no one else, just us. Dinner only. Also, Sandy cannot know about this. She won't, I promise. Where and what time? Antonio's at 7:30 p.m. Okay, I'll be there. I had planned to go to the salon to get my hair done on Friday, but I decided to change appointments today. Case, I knew you would love it on Friday night too. They fit me in, so I left work at 3:30 and was finished by 4:30. I went home. Knowing Ted would love it, just like you will, Case. I rested for an hour, then you called me. I told you I was going to dinner with a friend. You didn't ask who, and I didn't volunteer either. You told me you closed a deal today, and I was so happy for you. Then we talked about taking a trip to Maui that we had wanted to do for a long time. We hung up after we declared our love for each other. I felt so guilty for what I was doing again tonight. I knew I had probably destroyed us by now, and certainly, after tonight, you would not want me again. I wasn't sure what might happen tonight. I had mixed feelings. I drifted off to sleep and woke at about 6 p.m. I started getting ready for my dinner with Ted. I was having second thoughts and wasn't sure I should go. A couple of times, I picked up my phone to cancel, but I didn't. I dressed and went downstairs to wait for him. I was listening to Ally, but then my mind drifted off. I remembered our conversation and how excited Ally was about the trip to Maui. I told her about the first deal, not the second one, or how big either of them was, or what they meant to our future. I knew that I was getting a hefty commission. All the other things were a total surprise to me. At this point, I decided it was time for food and a break from Ally's story. Ally, let's take a break, I am hungry, and I need to tell you a few more things before you go any further with your story. Ally grimaced. The look on her face showed the anguish she was feeling. She wanted to finish and see what was going to happen then. I tried to prolong her angst a little longer and wanted to hear the rest of her story. It was a fantastic story. The sad thing was the main characters were my wife and some man I didn't know. I looked at the clock. It was almost 3 a.m., so I went to the kitchen. I decided to whip up some eggs and toast. Ally stayed in bed. I ate and returned with a cup of coffee and a plate of food for her. She was lying in bed in a ball, softly sobbing. I stood and watched as her body shook. Guilt, fear, and love collided, creating a great deal of conflict. It was sad to see the woman I love in so much pain, and it was of her own making. I may have helped open the door to what happened by being non-responsive when she called me for support. I wasn't there for her when she desperately needed me. I felt terrible that I had not respected her enough to be available for her. Ally was utterly lost. The control she had taken before had vanished. She could not read me, and I was not helping her. I wanted her to suffer through this, not knowing what would happen. Fearing what I would tell her next. I wanted those feelings to persist until I was ready to relieve her pain. I knew what I was about to say would make her feel even worse as her fear of losing me, and our marriage mounted. Ally, sit up, stop crying and eat this. I sat the plate on the bed. Ally sat up, resting back against the headboard. She eating a little and drinking coffee. Ally, I was so excited to come home from my trip to tell you all the good things that had happened. I made 2 big sales. Earned a lot of commission, and went to the office to do the paperwork. Then I came home excited to tell you about Franklin Street. I thought I would be a domestic husband for once and wash my clothes along with the dirty clothes in the hamper. I emptied the hamper. I innocently discovered several of the new ones I had never seen before. I was looking at them. Shocked would be a mild description of my reaction. Instantly I was sick to my stomach. I ran to the bathroom and vomited. I was crushed. The idea that you would have cheated on me destroyed me. I was so confused. As my head lay on my arms on the toilet rim, I could not understand how or why you would cheat on me. What had I done to deserve this? I had always put you on a pedestal. I treated you like a queen. I just could not understand. I vomited again and then again until I was empty. I rolled onto the tile floor and cried. I finally gathered myself and washed up, knowing I had to move on and discover what had happened. Why? When I returned to the laundry room, the guest room sheets were on the floor. I thought that was strange. Why were they dirty? Who had slept in there? So I knew what had happened was recent. That confirmed that you had cheated on me at least several times. I wondered if this had been going on a long time or just started. Ally, I can't tell you how destroyed I was. I was confused by your cheating. I was unable to understand why. What had I done to deserve this? But knowing you had done this to me, to us, made me sick. I wanted to vomit again. At that moment, I hated you, Ally, and didn't care if I ever saw you again. Now that I have heard part of your story, I am disgusted with you and what you have admitted to doing. I do not know what will happen to us yet, or how we can survive this hideous, selfish betrayal you have put on me in our marriage. But before you go on, I need to tell you all the wonderful things that happened for us today before you destroyed it. While I was at the office, Jake invited me to go to dinner to celebrate the 2 big sales. Jake's wife was at a meeting. You had told me you were out for dinner and dancing with your girlfriends, but we both know that was a lie. We met at a restaurant I had never been to, and Jake told me it had great steaks. I was excited to try a new place we might go to one night to eat and dance. After making my afternoon discovery, I was sick, depressed, confused. After learning the commission and bonuses I wanted to share with you so badly, the high I had been on crumbled into a deep depression. I knew I needed to shake these feelings off, so I took a long hot shower, trying to understand how you could cheat on me. More importantly, why? What had I done to you that caused you to consider cheating? We will talk about that later if it even matters, anyway. I was meeting Jake at the Blue Lighthouse on Reynolds, so I dressed, and since Reynolds is on the other side of town, I left about 6:30 p.m. to make the drive that I stopped when I saw a shocked look on Ally's face. The restaurant rang a bell and struck fear in her. She knew she was there then, and she had been seen that I got there a little before 7 p.m., and as I was getting out of the car, I saw 2 couples stumbling out of the restaurant holding on to each other, laughing, and having fun. Watching them, I thought about us being just like them, laughing and having fun together, so much in love. My heart ached with what I had learned earlier. I moved toward the door, and just before I went inside, I heard a woman's voice. It was a familiar voice. Ally, it was your voice, yelling to Sandy in your dates, we have to go because I have to be home by 11 p.m. Case will be waiting for me. That may not be the exact quote, but it is damn close, isn't it? Ally's eyes closed, and her head dropped, knowing that was what she had said. She knew I had caught her cheating on me. She just shook her head and started to sob again. I thought, as your husband, I should run to you, drag you away from him, but no, I was not doing that. You were doing what you were doing. It had to play out however it did and show me the real you. The unfortunate thing was, Ally, when I got inside and met Jake. Ally was sobbing as she heard me tell her that Jake had seen her and that I knew she was cheating before she told me. Jake was very concerned for you and me, even though you were the cheater and you deserve whatever you get, his words, not mine. Ally sobbed hard, shaking now, knowing things were much worse than she had thought. You see, Ally, your failure to be my faithful wife for the past 2 weeks or for however long your cheating has gone on, has hurt more than you and me. Others are affected as well. Just think what your and my parents will feel like when you must explain this mess to them. How about our friends, the people at our church and country club? You see, many people are affected by your selfish acts. Ally cowered away in a ball to the other side of the bed. I know you never thought about anybody but yourself, did you? No, you didn't. You chose to follow your great friend, Sandy, as she led you down the cheating path. Ally, Case will never know. She told you. Well, wrong again, Ally. I did find out, didn't I? Ally was sobbing hard again. When you gather yourself, I will continue. I got up and left the room. 30 minutes passed, and I looked in on Ally. She was lying there still in a ball but not crying anymore. I walked into the room and asked, are you going to be able to talk to me and hear me out without coming apart again? Please wash your face, put on some clothes, and come downstairs. Get whatever you want to drink, meet me in the den in 10 minutes. I looked at Ally sobbing on the bed. I went downstairs to the fridge, taking out 3 beers. I sat in my lounge chair, thinking as I was waiting for Ally. 10 minutes later, as I finished 1 beer, a weary Ally came in with a glass of wine and a plate of cheese and crackers. I looked at her as she entered. She was wearing a sweatsuit, and she had cleaned up some. Her natural beauty radiated from her as she settled on the couch, pulling her legs up under her. I looked at her for a minute. She looked drained and nervous, a beaten woman. As we sat quietly, Ally started to fidget. Her eyes were sad, and I knew she thought that we were over and that I hated her. That was not precisely correct. I hated what Ally had done and did not understand why. But I did love her. That was the primary dilemma. We would not be having this discussion if I didn't love her. I was confused and unsure about our future at this point, and I had decided I didn't want to lose her. The next several hours would help me understand what would happen to us and what I was going to do. The one thing that would happen was that Ally would suffer tremendous emotional pain until I decided to relieve her. Ally looked at me. Case, you said you had more things to tell me before I finished my story, please tell me now. I looked at her knowing what I was about to tell her, combined with her fear we were over, was going to inflict a great deal of pain on her. I took a swallow of beer and set the bottle on the table. I looked up at our wedding picture on the wall, not looking at Ally as I started. This morning, when I woke, I was so excited to get home to you and tell you all the wonderful things that had happened while I was away on this long trip. The fact that I had made the 2 huge sales finally made all the long trips I had to make worthwhile. There would not be long trips for a while, so we could get back to normal and start planning the next parts of our lives together. I knew I would earn big commissions for these 2 sales, and if I figured it right, this money added to all that we had saved would be enough to complete the purchase of our dream home on Franklin Street. That has been our dream for so long, and now we will finally make that happen. There we could start our family, raise our babies, and live together for the rest of our lives. Ally was crying softly again but in control this time. She was sad and in pain, and I had little empathy for her as I added more salt and ground it into the wound. I was so excited today that I even stopped by Franklin Street on my way home and took some pictures of the house to show you later. I wanted to lay in bed with you last night after looking at the pictures of our future home while dreaming of our kids playing in the yard. I wanted to see your face smile when I told you we could finally buy it now. I knew you would be over the moon with excitement. But no, I haven't told you we could buy Franklin Street. So, look at us now. We are dealing with this huge bucket of shit you have dumped all over everything. Ally, you know that you have jeopardized all of our dreams. How could you be so selfish and irresponsible with your life, my life, and our future families' lives? I paused as Ally dropped her head in her hands and sobbed harder. How could you? Why did you do this to us? I paused again. So, after I saw you with your lover at the restaurant, Jake struggled, telling me he had seen you and how you were acting. I told him I already knew something was happening and what I suspected. Explaining what I had found at home this afternoon. Once we got past that awkward moment, I decided to enjoy the dinner as best I could and deal with you later. Our dinner arrived, it looked good, but you had destroyed my appetite. I forced myself to eat some of the excellent steaks. Jake told me about some wonderful news during dinner, and I was sky-high excited. But my day was ruined already, so as great as this news was, I had difficulty getting excited, knowing that you had destroyed my whole life. Ally looked up at me. Her face was puffy and red, and her eyes were streaming tears. What news? She choked out between sobs. My great news could never replace what I had just lost today. The one person in the world I loved more than life. The most valuable part of my life, you. Ally, you. I couldn't run home, crash through the door, grab you up and swing you around, kissing you and telling you all the great news. No. I couldn't happily share the big news with the woman I love because she was cheating on me. That destroyed me and any happiness I had. That hit Ally hard. She was sobbing hard now. Her whole body was shaking, and she quickly lost it, and her sobbing became uncontrollable again that I stopped talking and just looked at her. I still loved her and wanted to be with her, but how could I do that and still save face, so she didn't feel she had gotten one over on me? How could I trust her to be the mom to our children and be the wife I love and need by my side and in my bed only? In some way. Ally must pay the price for cheating. There are no free rides for that level of betrayal. Ally finally gained some control and looked over at me. She looked ruined, helpless, and sad. She wiped her eyes between sniffles. Case, what was your wonderful news? Please tell me. I remained quiet for 10 minutes, just looking at her. I knew she was dying inside, and I hoped it was hurting her as badly as she had hurt me. Then I puffed up my chest and looked at her proudly. Well, life does go on, even in the presence of treachery. Ally, Jake told me tonight I was offered a big promotion. It is a new position in the company that was developed just for me. It will allow me to stay home, create and train a team of senior sales executives, and develop major accounts direct to the company. I will be the director of major accounts, the only one in the company. It is an executive-level position. I will have a staff of 6 people, and I also will have a great corner office on the executive floor. It is a huge thing for me, for us. But you, Ally, you up our celebration. Ally's eyes went sad, then brightened. I could see how proud she was of me. But the night's sadness overwhelmed any joy she could feel, and she quickly slipped back into her depressed state that I added more salt. I will receive a 30% salary increase, a luxury company car, BMW, Mercedes or equal. The company will cover 100% of the car operating cost and ensure the new car costs me nothing. I become a stockholder in the company with a stock grant equaling 50% of my net salary. I also could receive year-end stock bonuses based on my performance. Ally perked up. Wow, that's great for you. She realized there was a real possibility that she might never enjoy any of my future successes. And that's not all. I will participate in the executive profit bonus program. That can be a big bonus if the company does well each year, and it can be big money. It could be a 50% salary bonus each year. The last new benefit is I get 5 weeks of paid vacation. And there is also a 1-month salary vacation bonus. They wanted us to be able to take a great vacation together and recharge each year. But we will have to see about that, won't we? I was rubbing the salt in deeper, making it all hurt. Ally was looking at me with tears rolling down her cheeks. She had heard the past tense references as I told her about these beautiful things that were happening for me and should be happening for us, but based on her stupidity and selfish action, she may never share in any of it. Case, I am so proud of you for everything you have accomplished, and I know you will continue to do important things. I only hope that, in some way, you can take me along with you. Her sadness overtook her again and beat her with a painful flog of despair. I sat in similar pain, watching Ally struggle to breathe between sobs. I gave her a few minutes of silence, then said, "Okay, we need to finish this. Stop crying and feeling so sorry for yourself. Be an adult and tell me the rest." Ally sobbed louder as my voice raised. Then suddenly, my anger exploded, raising its head for the first time. I should be the one crying. You, Ally, you have destroyed what we had, and it can never ever be the same again, regardless of what I decide. You will always be a cheater. I screamed. Ally cowered away from me, then ran from the room shrieking. Oh God, what have I done?